This excerpt was taken from a Full and Bloom interview with producer Tom Werman. Motley Crue Shout at the Devil. The album was released on this day in history, September 26, 1983. A link to the entire interview can be found in the description. How does your association begin with Motley Crue then, if it doesn't come from Doug Morris?
I had a friend who worked with me at Epic Records who sent me Too Fast for Love, and I listened to it. She said, she was in New York and I was in LA, and she said, you should check this band out. They sound like somebody you would be good at, producing. And I listened to it and I told her, it's really not my cup of tea. It's a little too sloppy. So I was pretty neat as a producer. I like things to be in time and in tune. Anyway, I didn't go for it. And then I became head of A&R at Elektra Records, which was their label. They were signed to it, and Too Fast for Love had done pretty well. And there was a guy who worked for me, Tom Zutok, who was in the movie. He was played in the movie. He had signed the crew to Elektra, and he said, Werman, you should produce this band. It would be a really good match. So the band came in to my office, and we had a meeting, and Nikki was really difficult. Tommy kind of brought him around, and I think we probably went into rehearsal, and they said, fine, you can produce our record. They didn't like the guy who produced their first record. I think it was their manager. I can't remember who produced their first record, actually.
Yeah, I think they brought Roy Thomas Baker in at the end or something to either fix what the original, they had released it independently. But yeah, I think it was maybe the manager, but I know they brought Roy Thomas Baker in to, what did he remix it or something? I can't quite remember.
Possibly. With Michael Wagner, that was his engineer. So, it just happened from there. It was quick. Would have been a little quicker if Nikki hadn't had a car accident, broken his shoulder, and he had to do his bass parts with a broken shoulder.
Right.
I mean, his arm was literally in a sling. He was playing the bass. It was fairly heroic. Took a long time, though. So, because bands have all their material made and rehearsed and written and ready to go, first albums usually go pretty quickly. Then the band goes out on tour, and the album explodes, and the label says, oh man, get back in the studio, and make a second album quick while the iron is hot. And then we're putting you out on this big tour to support the album. So all of a sudden there's a time crush, and they got to come up with 12 more great songs. And that's why some follow-up albums are disappointing. But they had all the songs ready for the first album, and it was pretty cool.
Do you recall what the budget was for Shout at the Devil?
No, I don't, but it wasn't very much. When after I'd been at Elektra for about a month and a half or two, they kicked the president upstairs, and EMI kicked him upstairs and brought in a new guy from Warner Brothers, and he was really tough. He was an A&R guy at Warner Brothers. And, he had signed some big acts over there, and he fancied himself up, a real hot shot. And he said, the first thing I'm going to do at this label is get rid of the Motley Crue. They're an embarrassment. And I tried as diplomatically as I could to say, Bob, someone has to pay the bills. And your music is fine, and it's top drawer, and it's high grade, and it's quality music, but this is rock and roll, and there's mass appeal here. I understand rock and roll. You don't. I didn't say that, but I wanted to say that. Fortunately, Too Fast for Love became a big seller before he could, or maybe it was Shout. I can't remember. No, it had to be Too Fast for Love. That became a big seller before he could drop the band. And he would have looked foolish if he had dropped the band. Right, it was Too Fast for Love because we hadn't finished Shout. I was gone from Elektra before I did Shout at the Devil. I did it. I didn't finish the Zutod part. One of the reasons I got to meet Motley Crue and Dokken in the beginning was when I couldn't work with this guy, the new president, so I quit. And they said, wait a minute, can we do a production deal with you? Would you produce some records for us under contract? And I said, okay, I was on my way to being an independent producer, and they wanted to give me a guaranteed amount for 3 albums that I would produce. And Motley was the first one. So that was how I kind of got to them.
Now, Nikki Sixx said that the record company didn't promote Shout at the Devil at all. Is that true?
I don't remember. I was probably right on to another project. They probably were caught by surprise. They were not completely aware of the scene on the Strip, of the popularity of the Crue at that time. And given the fact that the head of the company had no respect for the band,
it might have been true.
Be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't want to spend a lot of money on it.
Right.
So I'm
sure that changed later, though.
But I was up in Northern California, and I got a phone call from Zutod, from Tom Zutod, and who said, "Werman, we have a hit." And those are his exact words. And apparently, the record just took off. At one point, it kind of exploded, and there was huge demand for it once the word got out that it was good, apparently. I mean, I had, I had hopes for it, but I didn't think it was going to establish the band as a big deal.